However, as the press tour has gone on, as you can imagine, Milly Alcock more and more has become the center of attention, not as the star of...
Would it be too confusing to cast him in your DC universe going forward?
As another character?
Yeah, absolutely.
A massive, unprecedented crisis has just erupted inside the highest ranks of Warner Bros. And DC Studios, and the entire house of cards built by James Gunn is beginning to shake under the weight of an unmitigated box office disaster. Behind the polished corporate statements and damage control press tours, panic has officially set in following confirmation that Supergirl, starring Milly Alcock, has been ruthlessly yanked and pulled from over 1,000 movie theaters nationwide just weeks into its theatrical run, for a multi-million-dollar blockbuster designed to anchor the entire future of the new DC universe. Getting mass evicted from thousands of screens is the ultimate commercial death sentence. But what has turned this corporate failure into a full-scale digital meltdown is not just the empty auditoriums or the dismal financial tracking, it is the chaotic fallout surrounding Milly Alcock herself. As digital speculation and furious internet debates point the finger directly at her controversial press tour remarks, insider rumors suggest that studio executives are privately pointing fingers at her unfiltered commentary, while James Gunn faces intense scrutiny for fighting so hard to push her casting through against internal resistance. The resulting firestorm has transformed a simple superhero movie flop into a toxic PR nightmare that threatens to derail every upcoming project in the pipeline.
They kill Supergirl in one step. What is this? I haven't seen this at all.
There's been a lot of discussion online about Kara's queerness in the comics.
Many fans have embraced Supergirl as a queer icon.
A queer icon?
What do you think is about Kara that inspires that kind of...
Are better than people because they don't talk.
The trouble began long before the projectors went dark across 1,000 cinema locations, tracing its roots back to the heavily debated casting choices made during the early construction of the new DC universe. When James Gunn first announced that Milly Alcock would take on the mantle of Kara Zor-El, executive boardrooms at Warner Bros. Discovery were reportedly divided, with multiple high-ranking stakeholders expressing deep reservations about whether her edgy, counterculture persona could anchor a mainstream family superhero brand. Yet James Gunn forcefully overrode those internal warnings, pushing the casting through and later boasting in interviews that despite tons of fierce arguments behind closed doors, he knew instantly she was his choice. That gamble, however, immediately collided with a shifting cultural and commercial landscape. Carrying a massive production budget alongside inflated marketing overhead, Supergirl needed a stellar, global box office return to justify its existence. Instead, tracking numbers plummeted from opening weekend onward, culminating in a catastrophic second weekend percentage collapse that signaled general audiences were simply staying home. As empty seats multiplied, theater chains made the cold economic calculation to pull the movie off their rosters entirely, leaving DC Studios with an embarrassing black eye that no amount of corporate spin could hide. Rather than letting the dismal theater counts speak for themselves, Milly Alcock stepped into the media spotlight and delivered a series of interview soundbites that instantly poured gasoline on an already blazing fire. Addressing the mounting online criticism directed at the film, she openly dismissed her detractors by mocking anonymous burner accounts and calling out specific profiles identifying as conservative family men, famously remarking that if you're ticking off the right kind of people, you're doing okay.
Doesn't live inside the binary of what we think a woman should be.
She followed her own advice and shut up. Maybe Supergirl wouldn't be bombing as bad as it is.
That sharp defensive retort was paired with provocative commentary regarding the character's identity and systemic gender dynamics within Hollywood. Comments that instantly alienated core demographic blocks who historically drive high-grossing superhero ticket sales. Instead of diffusing the tension or offering a unifying message to ticket buyers, her words triggered an explosive ideological divide across social media platforms. Critics seized on the remarks as arrogant dismissal of everyday moviegoers, while supporters argued she was merely venting frustrations against targeted online harassment. But in the fragile ecosystem of modern cinematic franchises, alienating paying audiences while a movie is actively bleeding screens is a fatal error, and the backlash hit her social media feeds and public appearance schedule with brutal intensity. As the digital outrage multiplied, the spotlight inevitably swung back to James Gunn, whose overarching leadership and creative control of the DCU are now being aggressively challenged by internal stakeholders. Industry insiders have begun leaking that the fierce internal arguments preceding Milly Alcock's casting have weaponized this box office collapse, giving corporate executives who opposed her selection the ammunition they need to demand stricter oversight on future scripts and casting decisions. The narrative that James Gunn could single-handedly resurrect the DC brand through sheer force of will is fracturing under the weight of commercial reality. With downstream projects like Superman and other interconnected entries under intense microscope pressure, the failure of Supergirl to maintain theatrical distribution has created a dangerous precedent. When the face of your leading franchise actively engages in public feuds with moviegoers and mocks the very demographic required to fill cinema seats, the separation between creative expression and corporate liability vanishes entirely. Studio handlers reportedly tried to steer her toward damage control, but the damage to her public perception and the film's commercial viability was already sealed. The decision to fast-track Supergirl onto digital premium video on-demand services barely a month after its theatrical debut was heralded by studio defenders as a clever pivot toward modern viewing habits. But industry analysts saw it for what it truly was: an emergency evacuation. Dumping a blockbuster from over 1,000 theaters and rushing it to home screens is a white flag surrender, proving that Warner Bros. Chose to cut its losses rather than bleed more capital on empty theater rentals. Yet, even during digital release events and promotional appearances, the tension surrounding Milly Alcock remained palpable, with reports of hostile crowd reaction serving as a harsh reminder that the public mood had turned sour. The narrative shifted entirely away from the visual effects, action sequences, or plot points of the movie itself, locking instead onto a toxic cycle of finger-pointing between the star, the studio, and the fans. By framing every critique of the film's poor writing and sluggish pacing as mere misogyny or internet toxicity, the creative team effectively insulated themselves from constructive accountability, driving an even deeper wedge between the franchise and its core consumer base. This mounting controversy has cast a long, dark shadow over the entire architecture of the upcoming DC universe, raising urgent questions about whether the franchise can survive consecutive misfires. Every casting choice, script approval, and promotional interview is now viewed through a lens of deep suspicion by investors and fans alike, who are watching to see if James Gunn will alter his combative public communication style or double down on alienating strategies. For Milly Alcock, the path forward remains deeply uncertain. Whether her tenure as Kara Zor-El survives this baptism by fire or gets quietly rebooted away in future phases depends entirely on how badly the studio needs scapegoats to satisfy corporate shareholders. The illusion of a bulletproof cinematic universe has been shattered, replaced by the grim reality that audience goodwill, once squandered through tone-deaf press tours and box office freefalls, is nearly impossible to win back. As the dust settles on one of the most disastrous theatrical runs in modern comic book movie history, the industry is left staring at a sobering lesson about hubris, accountability, and the unforgiving nature of the ticket-buying public. That's it for today, folks. See you in the next video.